Dexter Morgan have made a lot of mistakes during the course of the series.
You know what I am?
The Beast
He's coming for you.
But what if I told you that the biggest mistake Dexter ever made was not killing Paul Bennett after hitting him with a frying pan? Letting Paul live and having him arrested instead triggered a chain reaction that ultimately led to the deaths of Rita, Doakes, and Deborah, just to name a few. This is what's known as a butterfly effect, where one small decision, like Dexter sparing Paul, spirals into a tornado of very large consequences. So today we're walking through the entire TV show, season by season, but in an alternate timeline where Dexter actually kills Paul Bennett. This is a truly consequences of your actions moment. So it all begins with Dexter hitting Paul over the head with a frying pan, but instead of pumping him up with drugs for the police to find, he kills him. Paul doesn't end up in prison, Paul doesn't call Rita about his missing shoe, and Rita doesn't find Paul's shoe in the backyard. Moving on to season 2, Rita doesn't find out about Dexter hitting Paul and never accuses him of being a drug addict. Dexter isn't forced to attend Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and therefore he never meets Lila. And Doakes doesn't follow him to one of the meetings, so he doesn't temporarily stop being suspicious of Dexter. Dexter doesn't get the idea to confront his mother's killer from Lila, so Dexter never confronts Santos Jimenez, and Santos doesn't tell Dexter that Laura Moser was a CI and romantically involved with Harry Morgan. Because of this, Dexter doesn't continue with his research about his biological mom and adoptive dad. So this means that Doakes never listens to Dexter's tape recordings of his mom and Harry, and Dexter doesn't go to La Huerta to file a formal complaint against Doakes. Since the conflict between both of them haven't escalated, Dexter doesn't set Doakes up by purposely misidentifying an innocent man as a murderer. Doakes never questions the man as a suspect and never gets mad at Dexter for setting him up. Dexter doesn't have any reason to headbutt him in the office, and Doakes never attack Dexter and never gets suspended. Meanwhile, Dexter never sends a Bay Harbor Butcher manifesto because he doesn't get the idea from Lila. Lundy doesn't draw the conclusion that the Bay Harbor Butcher has a law enforcement's background and doesn't base the investigation on that information. Lundy doesn't call in more FBI agents, and the police doesn't look closer into the BHB's victims' trials, okay? So Doakes never get the information that Dexter personally worked on many of the victims' trials and was responsible for many of them walking free. Doakes then never breaks into Dexter's apartment and never finds his blood slides. Deb and Batista don't question the neighbor of Rodrigo, one of the victims, and never gets the license plates of the car that picked him up shortly before his death. Deb, Lundy, and Batista don't figure out that the car was taken from evidence the night it was used in a murder, so the police can't narrow down the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation to someone in the precinct. The season would end with Dexter not finding out about Harry Morgan's suicide since Doakes doesn't get kidnapped and doesn't even know about it since, he hasn't done any research. Doakes is still alive and the Bay Harbor Butcher investigation continues for a year before becoming a cold case due to a lack of progression. Now season 3. Doakes is still alive, which means that Batista doesn't get promoted to sergeant. Dexter still kills Oscar Prado by mistake, but since he hasn't found out about his father's suicide or his relation to his biological mother, he chooses to celebrate Harry's birthday with Deborah instead of attending Oscar's funeral. This leads to Miguel never inviting Dexter and Rita over for dinner. Unlike Batista, Doakes never take Deborah off the Oscar Prado case because of her being so loud and upsetting Miguel. Doakes would take Deborah's side and La Huerta would respect his opinion. This results in Deborah never going to Anton's club to question him about the Skinner victim. Since Dexter doesn't eat dinner with Miguel, he never gets the information that Miguel's brother Ramon has acquired the cell phone belongings to Freebo's mother. Dexter doesn't feel worried or stressed that Miguel might find Freebo before him, so he takes it a bit easy. Miguel then gets to Freebo first and kills him, leaving the body behind. Dexter is called to the crime scene the following day and silently suspects Miguel. Since Freebo is found dead, the police, along with the Skinner, stop searching for him. So George King, aka the Skinner, stops skinning people completely because his motive was finding Freebo, who owned the money, but now Freebo has been found. Miami Metro Police Department believes that Freebo killed Tegan, one of the Skinner's victims, and they close both cases, meaning that George King remains a free man. Meanwhile, Miguel spirals further into his dark side after killing Freebo, and he kills his work nemesis Ellen Wolf. Without any training from Dexter, he leaves the body at the crime scene, and just like in the original show, LaGuerta gets dangerously close to catching Ellen Wolf's killer. But unlike the TV show, Dexter doesn't have enough information to figure out that Miguel is planning to kill LaGuerta, since they aren't friends in this timeline. Dexter isn't able to stop the murder, and Miguel ends up killing Maria LaGuerta. Despite a bunch of evidence pointing towards Miguel being the killer, he walks free thanks to his position and contacts. But both Dexter and Doakes are certain of his guilt. Dexter stalks Miguel and sedates him with M99, unaware that Doakes is watching everything from his car, since Doakes has also been stalking Miguel to find more evidence. Feeling failed by the justice system and upset that his friend LaGuerta died, Doakes doesn't intervene, and Dexter kills Miguel. The next day, Miguel is reported missing and the police suspect that he fled. Doakes now knows for sure that Dexter is a murderer, but he remains silent. And now for season 4. Since Dexter never finds the truth about his dad, he never tells Deborah that Harry wasn't perfect or hints that Harry was unfaithful to their mother. So Deborah never begins her research into Harry Morgan's CIs. When Lundy comes back to Miami to hunt Trinity, he and Deborah gets back together. Deborah isn't cheating on Anton because Anton never dated her in this timeline. So Deborah and Lundy, they don't have to keep their relationship a secret. So this means that they are never walking outside Lundy's hotel room at 5 in the morning, and Lundy never dies and Deborah never gets shot. So this means that Dexter doesn't go after Trinity in the office building because he's not in a rush to avenge his sister, and also he wants to avoid Lundy, who's now still involved in the Trinity case and may, catch him if he goes after Trinity in the office building, okay? So Dexter never sees Trinity's face, never follows him home, and never learns his address or real name. And he never introduces himself to Arthur Mitchell as Kyle Butler. No Kyle Butler equals no contact with Arthur Mitchell, which means that no one is there to stop Trinity when he unalives himself by jumping off a roof. Trinity dies and Rita lives. Deborah never finds out about Dexter's biological mother or that Dexter's biological brother was Brian Moser. That storyline is instead picked up by Doakes, who is trying to find solid evidence that proves that Dexter is a killer. Doakes regrets not intervening when Dexter killed Miguel, and now he feels ashamed. But it's too late to go to the police, because if he tells them now, he'll go down with Dexter for being a witness and staying silent. On to season 5. Since Rita never dies, Dexter and the kids don't move out of the house. Dexter never rents a moving van and never finds a human bloodstain in it. He never finds out that Boyd Fowler was the last person to rent that truck, and Dexter never follows him to the dumping ground where Boyd had left multiple dead girls in barrels. Dexter never kills Boyd, instead Boyd kills Lumen Pierce. Dexter and Lumen, of course, never meet. They never track down or kill members of the trafficking ring. Jordan Chase and his crew don't get paranoid that someone has found out about them, and they never try to move the barrels with the bodies. Their truck never crashes and the barrels never spill out, and the police never discovers the Barrel Girl case. Meanwhile, Doakes still haven't found any concrete evidence against Dexter. It's much harder to stalk someone or break into their house when they have a wife and 3 kids. Deborah and Lundy are still together. Season 6. Deborah doesn't get promoted to lieutenant because LaGuerta never becomes captain, because she's dead. No Lieutenant Deborah means no Mike Anderson. Deborah never starts to believe that she's in love with Dexter because she and Lundy are getting married. She never goes to church to confess her feelings to Dexter, and because of that, she never walks in on Dexter killing Travis. Season 7. Dexter doesn't burn down the church with Travis' body. He takes care of it like he always does and doesn't leave any evidence behind. Victor Baskov never kills Mike Anderson because Mike isn't in the story at all. The police never find a dead girl in Victor's abandoned car alongside a murdered cop, so the police never comes in contact with the Koshka Brotherhood. Dexter doesn't kill Victor, so Isaac and the Brotherhood never seek revenge, effectively removing that entire storyline. Deborah never assigns Dexter to DNA test Hannah McKay, since she doesn't feel the need to keep tabs on him. Dexter and Hannah's relationship never thrives, so Dexter kills her when he gets the chance. Lundy is very suspicious of Dexter. He notices that many of the criminals Miami Metro deals with just randomly disappears, but since he's married to Deborah now and somewhat respects what Dexter is doing, he stays quiet. And of course, Deborah never kills La Guerta. Season 8. Deborah still works at Miami Metro PD and isn't a junkie. Dr. Vogel only has contact with Dexter since Deborah doesn't know Dexter's secret. Therefore, Dr. Vogel doesn't need to help Deborah understand and accept Dexter. Also, Dexter finds out about Harry's suicide. And because of all this, he doesn't feel like he owes Vogel anything, so there's no personal bond. Dexter then kills Zack against Vogel's wishes, which leads to Dexter and Vogel going their separate ways. Dexter tracks down the brain surgeon by himself and kills him as soon as he gets the chance. Deborah doesn't get shot and never dies. So in conclusion, a very happy ending for Dexter compared to the one that we got. It's just crazy that such a small detail in season 1 of the show could have such massive consequences on the entire story. Not only for Dexter himself, but also for everyone around him. I mean, this version of the story would be absolute garbage from a viewer's perspective, okay? It would be boring as hell, but it would be so much better for Dexter as a character.